as a parent, I'm wondering, are there ways that you would recommend communicating in a household to, help the next generation really understand how to relate to money in a way that can help them be more successful?
It's a really great question. I have a friend of mine. She's now based in the States. Her name is Margaret Achelbarger. Yeah, that's it. I know it's a name. Um, but Margaret actually studies this specifically. So she studies how parents talk to their kids and what seems to work on the much, much longer term. So this is longitudinal research. It's absolutely fascinating. So she'd be a very good person to talk to. But in general, generations ago, it was very common to teach household finance or personal finance in school. So in late primary, early high school. At least it used to be where I'm from. My parents were taught this. My generation was not, which is very, very unfortunate because it is very strange to have people, children, go through years and years and years of school, and now they do know how to do calculus and they know how to do statistics and they have a vague idea about geography. Geography was not my strong suit, but they have absolutely no idea how the tax system works in their respective countries. They do not know how to balance books. So I personally find that incredibly strange. I am also a massive proponent of personal finance education, just for transparency's sake. But I think realistically for your children, you can emulate an economic environment where there are ways for kids to earn money, whether you want to do that through them getting good grades. I know not every parent is a massive fan of that because it means you're outsourcing what it means to, perform well in school. And now you're throwing that into external motivation territory. Not a lot of people like that. It's completely understandable. But you can have them mow the lawn, you can have them help you clean the house, or in any way that kids can responsibly support the household, of course. You can give them money for that. Maybe they can start a small side business, which is still responsible for whatever age they are. Maybe they could mow the neighbor's lawn. There are ways about this. So now they have an income. And this is becoming very, monopoly simulator, where now they have an income. And then realistically, you can sit down with them and ask them, so what is it that you would like to do with this income? Is this something that you would like to save? Are we saving towards something? Is this something they immediately want to spend? It would be very interesting to see from the get-go what your child's perception is of money and what their immediate and future goals are. And if they have future goals, for example, there are trade-offs you can discuss. There are savings plans and, workout plans that you can help them make. You can maybe even help them budget. And then, it depends on how involved you want to be from the get-go and how supportive you want to be, or whether you want to have your child make their own mistakes and learn that way. Both are, of course, perfectly valid. And that's how you can start doing that. But you can start doing that from a relatively young age, as soon as, the parent in the situation thinks they can go about their child earning a wage responsibly, of course.
Yeah. What are some of the things that both either as children or as adults, the way our personality plays into the decisions that we make financially? What do you see in the field of behavioral science that helps us make those decisions?
There is so much. So one of my favorite academics, so his name is Scott Rich. He also currently has a book out. He has a lot of work done around tightwads and spendthrifts. So these are personality types that spend and relate to money really quite differently. So a spendthrift, as the name kind of indicates, is someone who gets a lot of pleasure from spending money, like a lot of pleasure. So they don't really experience the pain of paying, which is just a nicely framed way of saying all the negative emotions associated that come with paying. So the loss of money, seeing the balance on your account go down or your credit card balance go up, or whichever way you do this. And then you've got people who are completely on the other end of the spectrum, so the tightwads. So people who have essentially the Scrooges. So people who really do not enjoy spending money, and they don't really get a lot of pleasure from spending money, regardless of what it is that they're buying, even if what they're buying is something they really, really, really wanted. So these are like two personality archetypes of how people relate to money. Now, how do you have a personality like that? That's, again, probably whatever happened in your previous life. We do see it a lot of people who come from a background where they could never splurge. So someone who is probably from a lower socioeconomic background, that once they do have money, they can turn into a massive spendthrift because, there's finally money and you better spend it because finally here is the moment and you can do it responsibly. Or they turn into a massive tightwad because they've known, poverty, for example, and they never want to spend the money again. It can go both ways, which makes, the psychology of it very, very interesting. But I'm afraid it doesn't necessarily answer your question. I think that the best way of testing whether someone is a spendthrift or a tightwad is to generally sit down with yourself and almost self-diagnose and be like, do any purchases or does any kind of spending money give me a lot of pleasure? Like, do I look forward to spending money? And if so, is that just all around spending money? Like, is this, do you even get excited about your energy bill? Because I know I personally do not. Or is it mainly, hedonic consumption? So is it shopping for clothing or new tech or, something for the children? Maybe holidays. Lots of people really get a kick out of being able to just in one swoop buy a whole holiday, which obviously is a very nice thing to do. So things like this, and then you can slowly start to figure out probably also where, if you are on a very tight budget or on any budget at all, where your pitfalls and where your temptations may be. Because if you're like me and your temptation is always shoes, this is probably not something that you should, these are not websites or these are not things that you should seek out after a long working day with a glass of wine behind the laptop alone, crowd cart next to you. It's probably not the vibe you should aim for.
Yeah. So knowing what your triggers are, right, before you sit down to. So is there somewhere down the middle that you suggest that people shoot for? Like, if they are training their habits, I mean, you don't want to be a spendthrift or a tightwad. How do you kind of train that place down the middle where maybe you are successful and you're also saving, but you're having some of the experiences that you want? How can people do that?